Welcome to Career Cravings with your hosts, Dev Ramcharan and Megan Reed. If you crave a better and more satisfying career, this show is for you. We're broadcasting live on Bold Radio Station every week. Now, here are your hosts, Dev and Megan.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Career Cravings. I'm Megan Reed, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Laura Hambly. I'm in Toronto this evening, and Laura is in Calgary, Alberta. We are here with our guest, Rosie Moyer, tonight, and she's actually speaking with us from Kelowna. And tonight's episode is called Life Through the Lens, How to Build a Career in Multimedia. And Rosie really is an expert. In fact, she's actually from Calgary, but she's in Kelowna tonight because she's flying to do a video shoot tomorrow. So we're super excited to have her join us tonight. Thanks so much, Rosie. To start us off, can you tell us a little bit about your career path and share some of your highlights along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. My career path started actually really young in high school. I was one of those ones that was lucky enough to know what direction I wanted to take. Going into just grade 10, I knew I wanted to work in photography and video. And from there, I spent so much of my time playing around with the video cameras at the time that I actually got in trouble for it. And in the end, it worked out great because that's the direction I chose for my career. I went off to Vancouver Film School to take a multimedia course out there, which covered a little bit of everything at the time. And for me, that was amazing. It was a really quick-paced learning system, but it taught us a lot about all the different types of multimedia, and it really gave us a feel for what real working was with video, right? Mm-hmm. So after I went to film school, I got, a quick job at a educational software company making video. And then from there, I moved on to a company called Channel One Media. And they were based in Vancouver, and I've been with them as a contractor for almost 20 years now. They expanded out to Toronto. When I started, there was only 2 staff, and now their staff is close to 20. So during that time, I did video for a lot of NHL teams, NFL teams, professional sports across North America. And yeah, it was phenomenal. I got lots of experience learning how to deal with different clients and different target audiences. And more recently, I've decided to venture off on my own. I've always done freelance, but in this case, I'm finally under a company name going out and promoting my own video work.
Wow. So for everyone listening and for my own benefit, give us a little bit of understanding how you made things work being freelance for the initial piece of your career. I think what's one of the things that's really exciting about you being on the show tonight is the fact that you actually turned your passion into a career. And I know so many listeners out there struggle with that. They're not sure how to do that. So how did you make it work? It sounds so easy the way you just laid it out.
It's not super easy. It's hard to really build up your clientele list. But in my end, I didn't have just one job. When I started out doing video, Channel One gave me enough work to do a lot of video productions. But I mean, with the children and mortgage, I ended up starting a family photography company as well. So it started out just as a hobby, but next thing you know, friends were telling friends and word of mouth was spreading, and I was booking over 100 clients a month for the photos and doing video on top of it. So it was quite the balancing act for many years, and I'm still doing both. But it's a nice way to sort of balance out the days, going out and doing photo shoots, interacting with people, and then getting to plan nice video projects with different target audiences.
Okay. And so for the listeners, so Rosie's photography company is called Little Laughs Photography, and her newest endeavor with the video production is called Mindspin Media. And so I guess tell us, how did you get all these clients? Because I think there's the entrepreneurial piece, there's the creative piece, and you've put everything together, but how did you get all your clients?
I think the best way that I get clients in regards to new clients, it's either through web, people coming across through Google searches, or referrals. I find a huge portion of my clients tell their friends. As long as you leave people happy with their final product, whether it's video or photography, then they're going to want to tell people about you and how well you did. Also, quality of work ends up speaking for itself. Showcasing whether it's video or photography, people see the quality of the work and then they want something of that level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I've seen the quality of your work, Rosie, and I think it definitely speaks for itself, both on the video end and the photography side. And I think what's unique here is that Rosie is a really talented artist. There's no doubt about it, but she's also an entrepreneur, and not every artist is good at entrepreneurship. So tell us, Rosie, what makes you good at both, and what sets you apart being able to start these businesses?
I think being an entrepreneur is scary, and I believe it takes a certain personality type in order to take that leap, because you don't get a guaranteed paycheck. There's no paycheck every Friday coming in. So if work slows down, you have to be, hold on tight and say, okay, I know work's coming in, and then keep chugging along to make more clients come to you. And whether it's advertising on social media or, offering specials, just ways to get people to find out about you if you need to drum up work. So there is definitely the fear aspect that stops a lot of people from going ahead and doing a business startup, but it's also putting in 110%. A lot of people started on the side and don't really put a lot into it, but if you want to go full-out entrepreneur, you really have to put in 110% and put everything you've got into it to keep it flowing.
Wow, so it really sounds like a lot of grit and perseverance and living with that risk, being a risk taker. Would you say so, Rosie?
Absolutely. I definitely classify myself as a risk taker. But that's, you just cross your fingers.
But do you have any advice in managing all that you're managing and balancing and giving 110% effort? How do you have a work-life balance or maintain a balance?
Well, for many years, I didn't have a good work-life balance. I was doing website updates for clients on Christmas Eve, and I was unable to say no and just, keep taking on more and more work. As my kids got a little older, I started realizing, the time with family and time for my own sanity so that I can be most effective. So I find with myself, my mornings are the most effective time of day, so I often will wake up an hour or two before the rest of the crew, just so that I have my coffee and my quiet time so that I can reflect on the day and get organized. So I think being a self-starter and being organized for what you need to achieve that day helps keep on track, but also booking time off and saying, okay, this weekend I'm not working and I'm, going away with the kids or doing something for yourself, and having that time away from the computer, away from the phone and social media, just to keep life balanced, right? So I'm getting better at it. It just took me time to figure it out.
Okay. So it sounds like organization and planning has been a big key for you in maintaining that work-life balance, and also your own self-awareness that if morning's your most effective time, okay, get up and get that plan rolling right away. I think that's good advice. And so what do you think your challenges are with persevering and keeping that work-life balance intact? What's the challenging part for you with that?
Definitely, being a mother as well, there's always the challenge of the kids. They're definitely big when you've got a kid home from school, but yet you've got a big deadline that you need to get done. Or you're working so late that you realize, okay, my day is not as effective right now as it's going to be first thing in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I find that, just knowing myself, how I work, and setting aside time to get things done help me for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So to switch gears on you a bit, you've given us kind of a great general overview of everything that you've been involved in, that you've done, that you've accomplished. I am curious, though, what would you kind of classify, or what do you think is your biggest success, or a couple of your biggest successes along the way?
For me, the one I look back at as my biggest success was when I was in Vancouver Film School. On the first day of class, they sat the group of 30 down and they said, how many of you are going to do video? And of course, everyone raised their hand and they're like, me. And the teacher laid it out for us and he said, I got news for you. None of you are going to do video. Because everyone thinks that they're going to leave this class and they're going to go do video because it's really fun. And none of you will. And I stood up and I said, actually, I want to make music videos on Much Music. Again, this is now dating me, but back when Much Music played music videos. And I said, that's my goal. And so during that 10-month program at the school, I focused on meeting independent artists. And at that time, I got 2 videos that I directed and created on Much Music and aired on TV. And so for me, even though that wasn't a big financial goal, it was a great goal of being able to achieve what I was told I couldn't. So I always look back, and that's my biggest reward, was being able to create what I wanted to, right?
Oh, that's a good one. That is a great one. Has that ever occurred at another time later on in your career where someone has either directly told you or given you the impression that you can't do it or that's not going to work, you're not going to make it, and you've proved them wrong again?
I haven't had, when it comes to clients, I've always been able to achieve the goals. There was one example, and this one wasn't really someone telling us that we couldn't do it, but there was a big presentation in order to get the PGA Tour up to Vancouver. And so I had a video with the office staff, the animated CD, and we had couriered it down to Florida for them to present it. And the day it arrived, the courier had completely destroyed the CD, and they were presenting the next morning, right? So, we're like, okay, how do we solve this problem? And at that point, we were looking into flights to flying out a new CD just so they'd be able to present this. But we managed to call into a Kinko's down in Florida, and after talking to staff there for a little bit, we bribed one of the guys and spent 2 hours on the phone with him, talking him through how to download the files, burning the files properly, and then testing the CD. And he actually hand-delivered it to the CEO's hotel room the night before the presentation. So that wasn't really an example of being told we couldn't do it, but running into an obstacle and then finding the solution. It was really rewarding in the end to know that we managed to save the day and get the presentation there.
Right. So a really good example, again, of persevering through really difficult scenarios, Rosie. And I'm just interested back to that example of being a student. So a student entering multimedia and being told that it's very difficult to get a job in video. What advice would you have for students interested in getting into multimedia these days compared to 20 years ago when you did it? And what's changed?
Oh, well, technology is constantly changing. When I went to school, I made the absolute most of it. At our school, it was open 24 hours. So at that time, there'd be days that I literally would stay there for 2 days straight just to make use of their high-end video equipment. So a lot of students who did that ended up working in the industry. I'd love to tell students to always push for what you want to do. It's your career, and you're the only one that you need to make happy. And so if video is your goal, set your goal and just head right towards it. And don't let people tell you that you can't do it, because there's always a way to achieve it. And networking is a big part of it as well. I find that getting to know more people, doing work for clients, when clients are happy, they tell their friends, and then work just keeps flowing in.
Right. So it sounds like you've achieved quite a network in the industry, traveling all over and shooting videos in different parts of the country.
Yeah, I've done video projects across the world, actually. Now with technology, you don't physically need to be there anymore. Right now I'm in Kelowna because I'm heading up to Prince George tomorrow to shoot a big a big video that we're doing for the BC Physiotherapists Association. They're looking to promote physiotherapists to move into rural BC. So I'm traveling to different towns across BC to showcase the amazing things that these rural communities have to offer. So that's what I'm doing in this case, but there's always new and exciting projects, and I like that it's constantly changing in what style that we're doing.
Right. So what have been I guess my question is more about the future. You've obviously seen a lot of changes in the technology and how things are being done, but what do you see as the future of video in the world and in business?
Well, back in the day, it used to be old videotapes and, you'd showcase it to your clients and they'd show their clients. Nowadays, social media is amazing. I think they said 87% of people use the internet for video now. So everyone's on their phones, they're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and getting your product or your service out there via video is so much easier nowadays to get people to see the final product, right? Like I know YouTube has over 1 billion users, and people search and stumble across these videos all the time. So definitely technology has changed. Now it's more creating an amazing professional video, but also getting it out there. Right? A lot of people will have, a video that they're super proud of, but unless you actually get it out for people to see it, it doesn't do your company any good.
Well, that's actually interesting that you mentioned that, because I was going to go back to, your point about networking and referrals being such a big part of your business and a driver for your businesses. But I assume you do your own videos and your own marketing as well. I guess tell us a little bit about, if you had to give people their, top 3 points of advice, what do people need to know about media and videos in order to gain business or bring in clients?
I think the biggest thing that people need to focus on is coming across as professional. A lot of people might throw together a video, get a family member to make something on their iPhone, and it makes a world of difference on how customers will look at you as being professional or non-professional. And also I see with websites, so many people, nowadays with technology is changing, and there's a variety of user-friendly apps out there. But knowing your target, taking the time to figure out who your target is, and making a website that is professional, classy, and searchable so that people are going to find you. Again, it's just like video. If you have a great website but no one can find it, it does you no good, right? So the biggest thing I tell people is if you're doing a startup of any form, take the time and the money initially to come up with your whole branding and your website, because that is going to represent you to people who don't know you yet.
Okay. And when you say professional video, you being a professional and seeing thousands of videos, what do you define as professional, or what are the things that stick out to you when you see a video and it's not professional in your eyes? Because I'm wondering, of course, I've seen videos where I don't think they're professional, but I don't come from the lens you come from. What do you notice with professional videos versus non-professional videos?
First off is usually the quality of the footage and the way it's edited, but the biggest thing is attention span. In order to keep the client's attention, it has to be interesting. It has to, keep people wanting to watch. A lot of people try to put in too much content, and in their case, the videos end up getting longer and longer. And honestly, no one really nowadays will sit through a video that's over 2 minutes long, unless there's a specific reason for it. So for me, professional is not only quality, but it looking good, the logos looking good, music, everything coming together so that you can tell that it's classy, professional, and the editing, effects. Like there's so many different aspects to it that make it look top quality, right?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. So I'm going to switch gears on you and switch back to digging in a little bit deeper with your career specifically. And what I'm wondering is, for you, how would you define career satisfaction? What does that mean to you? And what is it that keeps you really fully engaged and growing in your career?
Well, there's a few different things that I love about my career. Each company sort of has its own thing that I take from it. With the photos, the ability to capture memories for people and make them extremely happy. I love making people happy. And when they walk away or they fire me an email that they loved it, I've been lucky enough to have some clients that I've managed to capture their last moments with their family. I've been called in to newborns that didn't have a long life expectancy, and I was able to give those parents a family moment with their babies, just like any healthy newborn baby. And in those times, it's really humbling, and you feel very honored to be able to create an art piece that they have for the rest of their lives to look back on. So in the photo aspect of things, I love making people happy, and I love giving them memories. In the video aspect of things, I again, it's making the client happy. I love when there's tons of views on a video and the product starts selling, and that the piece that I've created specifically targeted and marketed towards them is doing its job. So in the video aspect, when people walk away and they're impressed and they're like, wow, this is amazing, that for me is my reward. I also, over the years, helped start up a furnace company, which is completely not related to my photo and video, but I did all the online marketing. I created videos, I created ad campaigns, I did photos and advertising. And in that aspect, again, it was, coming from nowhere to ranking top 3 in the search engines for me was rewarding.
Okay. So it's really interesting to hear what kind of is so satisfying to you, because of course, as an entrepreneur, your answer makes a lot of sense, but you didn't mention, I guess, the creativity or the artistic side of things. Is there something there as well that really makes up that satisfaction for you as well, or is it really just that, those special moments and being able to please the client? Because it makes me wonder, could you do that in a different industry and find that same satisfaction outside of being creative? Or is there a big piece to that creativity for you as well?
I guess, you absolutely have a point there. Personally, myself, I love pleasing the clients, but on the artistic aspect, it's a matter of changing my style per each client. Every video project or photo project, people have different styles on how they want to come across. So it's kind of like twisting myself. I can go from, crazy. I did a crazy spoken word video that was actually aired on Fox News because it was so controversial. And then I can go into, some NHL action videos, and then go into a baby food commercial. So, being able to morph into what the target audience is going to want to see, that makes me absolutely proud, because I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I have the ability to take a look and see what this client's target is and create a piece for them that is going to match it, right? And get that brain going and the ideas flowing. So,
right.
Yeah,
so
there's definitely some artistic aspect.
Right. It sounds like your ability to adapt. I mean, you're highly adaptable. And I think your creative skills maybe run so deep that you don't even think about that, but it's just part of who you are. Would you agree with that, Rosie?
Oh, absolutely. Like my whole life, I've always done arts. And, I love the freedom too of my job. Right. But the arts that I do, I've got so many different styles, and, I love showcasing it.
Right, absolutely. And if you could tell us, if you were 21 years old again, so back when you were in Vancouver Film School, is there any advice that you would give yourself back then if you could talk to your 21-year-old self again about your career?
Ooh, what advice would I give myself? I think I'm happy with the way I went forward, working in the industry. I think, if anything, I would have told myself back then to focus on just one item a little bit more than letting myself thin. Between the photography and the video, I definitely stay really busy, but I never presented all my video work in one place. I had never even had a portfolio because all the work would keep coming through referrals. They'd see some of my clients, see a few of the videos, and then I'd have a new project. So if I would have taken the time to get myself organized and all my pieces in one place, I think, that would have helped me, at least on the video path, sooner than me doing it down the road.
Right. So it's that adaptability and morphing and chasing opportunities has been both a blessing and a curse because it spread you very thin. And now it seems, Rosie, that you're much more focused on what you want. And what do you see yourself wanting to accomplish, say, in the next decade? What are your top goals?
The ultimate goal, at least with Mindspace Media, is, to build up more clientele directly under my company name. Instead of as a freelancer for the many other places that I've worked with. So definitely more of that. And eventually, as an entrepreneur, continuing to grow where I could hire people who have the skill that I can train to create the projects the way I want to see them, and be more of fingers in the pot to help get the creative process flowing, but have qualified staff who can help me do the work. Because as it is right now, I'm, the brains behind it, but I'm also doing all of the actual work myself. So, to grow the business, getting more people to help balance out my workload is the goal in the future.
And what do you think would make you good at that? And I know that you had another business where you mentioned you did have some staff. I guess I'd ask you, what type of traits or skills do you have that would make you able to manage and grow a team?
Well, I was definitely extremely lucky with Channel One Media. That was the company that I started with right out of school. I've worked with them. That's the company I've worked with the NHL stuff for almost 20 years. And the owner of the company was an absolutely amazing mentor. And I still look up to him for business advice if I ever need it. Because he managed to take that company and grow it and expand all of the clients. So, yeah, I definitely look up to him in that aspect. So I think
so what is it about him? No, it's okay. So what is it about him that's made him be able to take a multimedia company and build it to that successful level of having operations across the country?
Okay, so sorry, now I'm remembering with the staff. It's a matter of finding qualified staff that can represent your company properly and treating your staff like gold, because the people who work for you are the ones that are going to make or break the business. So that's a huge thing that I live by, whether it was through the Furnace Company or with Channel One Media. As a boss, he treats everyone amazingly. And so as an employee at the time, I would always bend over backwards. He'd say, hey, we have a video, we have 2 days. And I'd say, yes, sir, I'm not sleeping. Because if you treat your staff well, they will always go above and beyond for you. So in, the growth of my company, I definitely want to keep that in line and hire people who are skilled that I can get trained on the right path, but treat them well so that when the deadlines are due, they don't mind working those extra hours to make the perfect product.
Right. And it seems like you've had a really good mentor, Rosie, and you still have that mentor in your life that has really taught you what goes into being a strong leader and a strong business owner. And I think to our listeners, I think in any career field, mentorship is so key throughout your career, because you're never done learning and being mentored by people who have gone before you. So
absolutely. I look up to him huge.
Is there anything that if you could thank him, if you were doing a speech to him, what would you thank him for most?
Oh, thank him for most. Just teaching me the basic understandings of business and dealing with clients. Hearing him deal with situations, and anytime there was a bump in the road, he was able to come up with a positive problem-solving solution. And I learned a lot from that and soaked that in. And it really comes in all aspects of business. And then through the years, I also joined some networking groups, and through those groups met other business, startups and entrepreneurs that I could also turn to business advice as well. So that worked out really well, and I'm still in touch with all of them. So if you run into a bump, having other people that understand your situation is excellent to reach out to them.
Great. And I think that is good advice to anyone out there in your industry, in other industries, having that network support system, because there always are going to be bumps in the road, but it's, I think, really how you look at those bumps and how you work through them. So I am wondering though, it sounds like you've really had such an exciting and successful career. You've made it freelancing. You've built your own companies. You get to pursue the passion that you've had since high school, and you've done it for over 20 years. You've had these interesting projects where you're with big names, the NHL, the PGA Tour, like crazy stuff. So it's super exciting to talk to you. I'm wondering though, is there anything that you regret or that you would do differently if you could turn back the clock?
There is, in all the years, there was only one project that didn't go as well as planned. It was a live event that we had recorded for several days for an outing. And at the time, I was working under a company. And as with video requires time to render. So when you make an edit, you have to convert it into a final video. And they wanted to showcase all of the day's events at the end of the day. And I did the edit. It was all ready. And one of the guys said to me, I want to change this, this, and this. And I said to him, there's not enough render time. But I didn't stand my ground with that. And so sure enough, I did the edit, set the render, and the computer could not process it in enough time to present it at their set time. So it got bumped later, and it still was presented, and it was sent out as well. So there was a solution. But in any job that I've done, that would be the one job I look back at where I wish I would have really been firm on that and said, people aren't going to notice the difference between these two shots. If you want it done by this time, it has to be set rendered now, right? So in all my years, I'm lucky that there's only one project that I wish I could go back and change. Everything else I've been extremely happy with and super proud about.
Okay. So I guess did you kind of learn from that experience and stand your ground from that point, or do you find you typically are someone who does stand your ground and it was just that one time?
As I get older and have more experience in it, I definitely stand my ground more. People cook in the kitchen and get involved, and I've been doing it so long now that at a certain point, I'll step up and say, okay, no, this is the direction it's going to go, or, just explain to people how the process works. With video, sometimes you'll shoot 20 minutes and chop out only a few seconds to get the right. So, explaining it to the client and letting them know, that helps me. But I definitely stand my ground a lot stronger as I get more experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess even, now that I reflect on that question, you've stood your ground probably most of your life, because even when you gave the example or the story about being back in film school and being told you couldn't do it, you couldn't make a career out of video, and now here you are 20 years later, and yes, you have. So it seems like you've probably always been that type of person.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And actually, years later, the Vancouver Film School contacted me, and they would send people my way as reference, students who were debating the program, to give me a call, and so I could, tell them my experience. Because, I definitely loved that school and everything I learned, and I was super happy that I was able to achieve the goals I set when I entered the class.
Mm. Wow, that really came full circle. So in going back to, or I guess touching again on school, I know earlier you kind of gave the advice to students out there or individuals out there who are considering a career in multimedia, video, photography. Your advice was really around, if it's your passion, do it, put your whole heart into it and move forward. And I think that is great advice. I'm curious too, specifically with multimedia, is there anything that you think students really need to be good at or have, maybe more on the technical side of things or the skills side of things? What advice would you give them on that side of things in order to make it like you did? What sets you apart from other people?
I think the biggest thing I've noticed that sets me apart from a lot of people in the video industry is video can be very technical. It can also be very artsy, but I think also having the people skills. Some people are amazing at the tech aspect, but when it comes to coming up with the creative and showcasing it to the client so the client is on the same page, a lot of people don't have that ability. Whereas, I take a look at myself from the outside and I say, okay, I have the ability to make a client see my vision But I also have the ability to do all the technical aspect of it. And if my camera breaks down in the middle of the shoot, I have the ability to troubleshoot it and get things fixed and solve the problem. Whereas a lot of different personalities often have just one of those traits.
Right. And I think that goes with a lot of careers where you can be really good at your technical trade, right? Whether it's being a good accountant, being a good lawyer, being a good engineer, but the people skills are a whole other element. And I think that they're underestimated how challenging those people and client skills can be. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more. When you say people or client skills, what do you mean, Rosie, for the listener? What is it specifically?
I find that there's so many different types of clients. In the video aspect of things, there's so many types of video goals. Some people are a little nervous going into it, and in that case, you don't have to be too aggressive. Some people are very going, and it's almost like matching your personality to them so that you can relate and help them understand what your vision is. So when it comes to people skills, I mean, between all the different clients that I've dealt with over the years, my personality does change slightly with different clients. I'll have some clients that are definitely nervous in front of the camera, and when I notice they're nervous, I'll take a little bit more time warming them up, make them a little bit more comfortable, crack a few more jokes. And I have some clients that are over the top, funny and having fun, and in that case, I'll match their sense of humor. So really, it's finding a connection with the client on a personal level so that you can be more comfortable with them, whether it's pitching a script for their product or whether it's taking a family photo shoot. Really, it's a matter of them trusting you to do an artistic piece that they're going to be happy with. And it sometimes takes a little while to build the trust, but that's where the people skills come in, is making them understand what you're going to create and, assuring them that they're going to be happy with the final product.
So it's communicating with them. It sounds like communicating, listening, developing trust, and giving them confidence that you know what you're doing, that you're a pro at what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Would that
and
sum it up? Yeah.
Also, and when it comes to the video projects, also taking the time to research. Because I deal with so many different types of clients and goals, I take the time and look into the competition, look at and see what they've done in the past, and learn a little bit about the product that you're going to be, because you have a full thing hit the right audience, right? So again, it's communication, but taking the time to do the research as well so that you're delivering a product that's going to achieve its goal.
Right. And go ahead, Megan.
I was actually just going to ask, with sort of the vast array of people that you have worked with, are there any certain clients or I guess type of clients that you find more challenging to work with?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely, I'm just going to laugh with that one. I definitely have had some challenging clients, and for some reason, those are the clients that end up loving me the most. I had one client, and I was fresh out of school, and I did a little website edit, and I sent him the bill, and immediately he called me and yelled and said, "What is this for?" And I was like, "Hey, here's what it's for. Here's the time." And then he's like, "Oh, okay." So with a little communication and not backing down on it, I gained respect. And in time with that client, I ended up working with him for probably 10 years until I was just too busy to take on more work. I've had, a few other clients. Again, it's the clients that don't have the initial trust, and you need to take the time to earn the trust for them to realize that, hey, if you're going to tell them no, don't approach it that way, they're going to listen, right? Mm-hmm. But in the end, all my clients have been amazing. I'm really lucky that way.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had some amazing experiences, and I think that advice about building the trust is so important in your field and so many other people's fields. And I think, coming back to those interpersonal skills that you mentioned, but really into that factor of trust, anyone who's selling a business or selling a service, whether it's their company or just a company that they work for, key. I think that's a really key message that I've gotten from you tonight, Rosie. I'm wondering, and we talked a little bit about your future, some of the things you want to accomplish in the next decade. I'm wondering, what do you think of when you think about retiring or the word retirement? Is that exciting for you? Is that scary for you? What do you think about retirement?
For me, I think scary. Just because I am more of a risk taker, I am a little bit more fly by the seat of my pants versus plan out long-term strategies. But that's just my own personality. So retirement does scare me, but I have confidence in myself that, with brainstorming and the right tools and having the right people working with me, there'll be ways to step back and have the companies taken over, right? But in the arts, it's really challenging because people really are wanting your skills and your creative ideas. So that's the one thing I found between working with a company that wasn't related to the arts and my artistic choices was that I'm required to do the video and I'm required to do the photography. Whereas, getting someone else in, it takes a lot of time to build them to the level and the vision that you want them to achieve.
And it obviously takes a lot of good mentorship. So just like you were mentored, Rosie, giving that mentorship to other people who can end up growing and taking over your business.
Oh, absolutely. I could talk for hours to people about new startup advice just because I love to see people succeed, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I can tell you're really passionate about it and you've learned a lot along the way. And yeah, definitely a lot to be proud of there. And Megan brought up that word retirement. And I know that whole retirement is changing. People are working a lot longer. They're working in different ways. The days of having a retirement party and going from working full time to nothing are becoming fewer or less common. But for you, Rosie, if there was a retirement party for Rosie Moyer, what types of things would you want people to say about you? What would you be proud to hear people say about Rosie?
If I were to have a retirement party, I was an inspiration to the people. Like I really enjoy taking students, etc., underneath my wings and just giving them the advice that when I was younger, I didn't necessarily have. I learned it through the years through Evan, who I look up to at Channel 1. But, prior to that, I didn't have anyone that could point me in the right direction. So if I had people at a retirement party for me, I would want them to say that I was an inspiration and that I helped guide them on the right path, someone that they can look up to. That would be the main points that I would want included.
Anything else you'd want them to say? So that you were inspirational, that you helped guide them. Anything else about what you were like to work with or as a leader?
Positivity, problem solver. I find like I'm super positive, and even under the most amount of stress, I actually find I work better when I'm bombarded with a lot of stress. So yeah, that positivity, and there's always a solution to every problem, and it's just how you look at it, right? Being an entrepreneur is scary. And actually, I was talking to a business owner the other day whose work was really quiet, and he was panicked. And I said to him, listen, you are an entrepreneur. This is your business. It will improve, and you just need to hold tight. You need to focus on bringing in more clients in the meantime. But things do improve, and don't be scared because you love your freedom and it's worth it. Being an entrepreneur and working in the arts like I get to do, having the freedom is totally worth it.
Well, there you have it. At this point, Rosie, what we are going to do is wrap up. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I think there's so much that Laura and I need to reflect on. So thank you again. At this point, we will go. You're welcome. We will go to our break, and we'll be back with you in a second.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks again to Rosie for her exceptional story full of all kinds of nuggets and learnings. And what really stood out to me about Rosie is that she's a true artist and a true entrepreneur. And she really drove home the point that entrepreneurship is amazing. It gives you freedom, you adapt, it gives you flexibility. It's exciting. She's had all kinds of experiences and challenges, and her career has taken her in many different directions. So rather than working for one company the whole time, she's been moving around to different opportunities. She's worked for Channel One as a contractor for 20 years, but she's also started her Mindspin media company recently, which does video production. She has Little Laughs Photography for many, many years, doing a whole range of photos. I mean, all of this different work, and then starting a furnace company in the midst of all of it, which was another experience for Rosie. But she really shows someone who is highly adaptable and takes on challenges as they come. So that was just great to hear. I think that Rosie had a lot of really good advice in terms of finding mentorship in your career. So she had an amazing mentor that really helped her along the way. And I think that that's very important in any career. And what she learned from her mentor is that you need to treat your people really well. You need to be there for them. And as she moves into the next stage of her career, growing a team, she'll need to be continuing to practice those skills on her people. And the good news is that she really seems to thrive and enjoy giving advice and coaching people. And I think that I have no doubt that she'll end up doing a really great job of that along the way. And I think that Rosie really talked about some of the learning she had around persevering. So persistence and persevering through the difficult times, through the naysayers, because in a lot of career fields, we hear advice, and the advice is not always well-founded. Advice such as, turn to the person next to you. They probably won't have a career in this field when they graduate. I mean, how demotivating is that for students? But it happens all the time. Or don't go into that career because there's no jobs in it. And then what happens is people don't follow their passions, and they end up coming full circle because they're not fulfilled, and they end up going back to those passions later in life. And I think Rosie did a great job of following her passions from high school onwards and just nurturing and developing the passions over the years. And I think that's really commendable. And I think a lot of people will be inspired by hearing this sort of story, especially in the arts, which gets a bad reputation in terms of there's no jobs, it's challenging, it's tricky, and you hear those voices over and over again. So it takes extra persistence, and good for Rosie for doing that. What do you think, Megan?
I agree with all of the information and themes and content that you pulled out, Laura. I think you hit the nail on the head. And I again would just reiterate, how appreciative I am about Rosie coming on the show, because the arts are so undervalued and by society and the education system. And when I say undervalued, I mean it's not an academic class. Academics take priority. So, by the time kids get to high school, they think, well, I don't have time for art. I don't have time for drama. I don't have time for music. I got to fit that science and math in there. So what's really inspiring to me is the fact that Rosie knew, she said from the time she was in grade 10 that this was the career path she wanted to pursue. We have had other creatives on the show before, but I believe Rosie's one of the first that really knew her passion that young and has pursued it, 20 years in. So I think that's amazing. It's clear that Rosie has a huge sense of optimism. I think that shone through with everything she shared today. She is a very optimistic, kind, helpful type of person. She's also a little spunky. She is persistent. She has perseverance. She has grit. She's worked through challenges, and she said that today. It's not that she didn't have challenges, but that combination of optimism and persistence, I think, is probably big on what helped her get to where she is today, to the point where she now owns 2 companies of her own. It's amazing. Another theme, I guess, that came out through what Rosie shared today is really growth and challenge and overcoming obstacles. I think that is a big piece of what gets her going and motivates her. every project she does is like a new challenge. And like she said, they're all different. The content, she has to do the research, she has to get the client on board. So overcoming those obstacles. And like you said, Laura, right back to that example in film school and proving that teacher wrong. That was a challenge for her and one of her proudest moments. I think her next goal and the challenge that she has in front of her is to grow a team. That is the next goal for her. And I think her advice to her 18-year-old or her 21-year-old self about being maybe a more organized or planful in advance, I hope that helps her to grow her team, and she continues to implement that advice. She is definitely a self-starter. She's very quick paced. She's got the answers. She's on to the next thing with her career. She is a multitasker. And I think her adaptability is really another aspect that I would say is key in her success. Her risk taking, her hard work, all of these factors. She's just got so many great ones that I could go on about. So it's through what she shared, there's so many different examples. One thing that really stood out to me, and I touched on it earlier in the show, is that, and Rosie did as well, there's an aspect to her that is not typical of all creatives. She has these interpersonal skills. And I think it came out even when I asked her, the question about what success is for her and what really is satisfying for her. And she said it's making people happy. And that was not the answer that I expected at all. And I don't think that would be necessarily the answer of a lot of creative types. I think it would be, getting to use my creative passion or making my vision a reality. And for her, it's really about the people. So that was quite an insight for me listening to Rosie share her story today. She also spoke about her mentor, like you mentioned, and the fact that he treated his staff so well, and that's something that she would want to do as well. And the other factor she mentioned in her networking and with her clients is that she has to adapt to them in order to really build their trust. So it's clear that those people skills come out loud and clear, and I think it's such a great combination for her to have the creativity and the technical skill and the artistic skill to do what she does and execute on her projects, but also balanced out with those interpersonal skills, the ability to negotiate, build trust, stand her ground during challenging situations. It is really kind of that dual skill set operating in tandem that has probably allowed her to get to where she is in her career. I think lastly, what I would touch on is her advice to entrepreneurs out there or business owners out there around her recommendations for videos. So I know personally with my business, videos are really helpful in bringing in clients. And in fact, we didn't share this earlier, but Rosie has actually done one of the Canada Career Counseling videos. So I know her work firsthand. It's amazing. And the advice that she shared today was, one, about the professionality of the video. So if it's amateur, if the footage isn't as good a quality, the effects, the transition, so that professional piece is key. She also mentioned keeping the content simple. So if you try and add in too much information, the message gets lost. So be really clear about that message. And ideally, she said, keep that video less than 2 minutes because people are going to lose interest. She also mentioned knowing your target audience. So if you hone in on that, who is your ideal client? That's who your target is. That's who you're building out or creating the video for. And last but not least, that it needs to be searchable. If no one sees it, it's not going to hit the mark. And so that is a whole nother topic about how to have these videos found. And I'm sure if anyone is interested in learning more about that, Rosie would be happy to share her insight and advice. But with that, I think those are all of the key aspects that I saw. And I know that was a bit of a mouthful. Anything else you wanted to add, Laura, or any comments on the feedback I had?
Well, I think the final line that Rosie said, I actually wrote it down in italics. It's if you love the freedom, it's worth it. And I think that's the thing with entrepreneurship. It comes with a lot of risk and it can be really scary, but if you love your freedom, it's worth it like Rosie is. So thank you.
Perfect. So if anyone has any questions or comments about tonight's episode or wants to get in touch with Rosie, you can let us know through our Canada Career Counseling website, Twitter, or Facebook page. If you do have a message for Rosie, we'd be happy to pass it along to her. We're always looking for new guests and show topics, so if there are any careers out there that you've been craving more information about, let us know. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and I hope you all have a happy Monday, and we'll be back with more Career Cravings next Sunday.
The career discussion doesn't stop here. For more information about how to transform your career, visit CanadaCareerCounseling.com. And remember to tune in next Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Bold Radio Station for the next episode of Career Cravings.